Towards Monday at 9.
This is the CBS Evening News. Bob Schieffer reporting. Good evening. An old but unbelievable discovery in the little West German mining town of Borken today. 6 of the 57 miners who were trapped 500 feet underground during a mine explosion on Wednesday were found to be alive and were rescued. Anthony Mason reports.
For the people of Borken, it was a miraculous moment of joy after 3 days of tragedy. The 6 rescued miners looked a little dazed, but largely untouched after being trapped for more than 65 hours underground. Doctors immediately gave each a clean bill of health. Until this morning's dramatic rescue, the explosion at the West German coal mine was thought to have killed all 57 workers underground. Those who didn't die in the blast, officials told the miners' families, were certain to have been killed by the carbon monoxide. Workers had continuously searched the tunnels since Wednesday to bring the bodies to the surface. Then early this morning, a television crew's microphone lowered down a shaft picked up tapping sounds. The 6 were discovered huddled in an air pocket and brought to the surface in a special cage. Suddenly, the town of Borken has at least the faint hope that another miracle might lead rescuers to find more of the missing still alive. Anthony Mason, CBS News, London.
37 bodies have now been recovered, but 14 of the miners are still unaccounted for. 2 other mine accidents, at least 27 gold miners feared dead in the collapse of a maze of tunnels and shafts in the Philippines. That accident followed 2 days of heavy rains, and in South Africa, at least 7 miners were killed in the world's deepest gold mine. They died during a rock slide more than a mile underground last night. In Pensacola, Florida today, naval officers heard testimony about the death of a Navy recruit, a case that has received nationwide attention and has raised serious questions about naval training procedures. Bruce Hall has our report on that.
The Navy began hearings today into charges against 5 instructors and the officer in charge of the controversial Pensacola Rescue Swim School in connection with the March death of Navy Airman recruit Lee Marecki. The school teaches techniques for rescuing airmen downed at sea. Witnesses testified that during a very tough rescue exercise in the training pool, 19-year-old Marecki panicked and began screaming. They said it was obvious that he desperately wanted out of the pool. Classmates earlier had described the scene to Marecki's sister.
I heard him screaming for help. At one point, he did get out of the water, requested to DOR, which is drop on request. His request was denied. He was pulled back into the water against his will.
A medical expert testified that the autopsy indicated Marecki died from a heart attack, perhaps brought on by stress. Other witnesses are expected to testify Marecki was held underwater by the instructors just prior to his death.
Double time, hard, left, left.
The rescue training program is facing more trouble, as the Inspector General's office says teaching procedures are outdated, inadequate, and instructors have not been properly taught how to handle emergencies.
You gotta go straight up.
Several former students at the Rescue Swim School say instructors inflicted mental and physical hazing that included holding students underwater until they turned blue. For the Navy, it is a question of how to prepare for dangerous missions without taking unnecessary risk.
The question we're really asking ourselves, are we training too close to the edge? That's what we're asking ourselves. That's what we're trying to find.
The Navy will not decide whether to proceed with court-martials until these cases are reviewed by top military officials. Bruce Hall, CBS News at the Pensacola Naval Air Station.
President Reagan was back home and resting today, but like any traveler just back from a long trip, he was still talking about it this afternoon, as we hear in this report from Terrence Smith at the White House.
Seeds of freedom and greater trust were sown, and I just have to believe that in ways we may not even be able to guess, those seeds will take root and grow.
The president, pointing to his meetings with Soviet dissidents and students in Moscow as telling symbols of a new openness and a more liberal attitude towards human rights. Mr. Reagan's 5 days in the heart of the land he once called the evil empire were remarkable by any standard, scenes that would have been impossible to imagine just a few years ago. Clearly impressed by what he had seen and heard, the president emerged with a positive reading of the man across the table.
My personal impression of Mr. Gorbachev is that he is a serious man seeking serious reform.
But has the president been bowled over by his reception and by the now famous Gorbachev charisma?
Either he's naive about Mr. Gorbachev, which I suspect is the case, or he's naive about the likelihood of the Soviet Union moving towards full democracy in a fairly short period of time.
A specialist on the Soviet personality who has briefed Mr. Reagan repeatedly believes that the evolving Reagan-Gorbachev relationship is a plus.
There's no question about the fact that these two men have developed a good and excellent working rapport, and I think we should be grateful for that.
The crucial question may not be the relationship between the two leaders as much as it is the true motive behind Gorbachev's reforms.
What he wants to introduce is the kind of mild dictatorship that one has in Panama under Noriega, but without the drugs and corruption. Ultimately, that is not constitutional democracy. And the question is, are we always, in concrete questions, are we going to be forever dissatisfied?
The guarantee against disappointment, says National Security Advisor Colin Powell, lies in the ongoing contacts established between the two governments on everything from arms control to regional disputes. Powell says the 4 Reagan-Gorbachev summits have created what he calls a stable, maturing relationship that he believes will outlast the Reagan administration. Terrence Smith, CBS News, the White House.
The Kremlin's #2 official, Igor Ligachev, defended himself today for the first time against allegations that he leads a conservative faction that is trying to slow perestroika. Ligachev insisted the ruling Politburo is united behind the economic reforms. During this week's summit, fired Moscow party chief Boris Yeltsin suggested that Ligachev be ousted. Well, coming up next on the CBS Evening News, George Shultz is back in the Middle East pushing his peace plan, and later a Saturday night creature feature with creatures great and small.
The day's looking new and bright.
It is.
And you're gonna start it right.
I am.
Cause there's Folgers for you that's decaffeinated too. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
Decaffeinated? And I'm waking up?
Nothing brightens your morning like mountain-grown Folgers decaffeinated. Mountain-grown coffee beans have more enticing aroma and richer flavor than any other kind.
With Folgers so rich and good, the day starts like it should.
And 1, 2, and 1, and 2.
The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
The day's really shaping up.
Nice workout, Mr. Landsberg?
Oh.
Sounds like you need Myoflex, the odorless pain relief rub for backache and sore muscles.
Israeli policy in the occupied territories sparked protests today in San Francisco, Chicago, and New York, where several hundred Palestinian supporters turned out in the rain. The demonstrators were marking the 21st anniversary of Israel's takeover of Gaza and the West Bank. Secretary of State Shultz shuttled between Egypt and Jordan today. He goes to Israel tomorrow, but his 4th peace mission of the year appears to be making no more headway than the previous ones. Wyatt Andrews reports.
Once again, the Secretary of State is in the Middle East, and once again his peace plan seems to be going nowhere. There is a new impatience expressed in Shultz's speeches now, a challenge to Arabs, Israelis, and Palestinians to grab at peace before it's too late.
For all of this to work, there must be Palestinian-Israeli accommodation. This is not a matter of winner take all, in which one side can win everything at once.
The target of Shultz's pure doggedness is King Hussein of Jordan. Shultz is asking the king to lead the Palestinians into a peace conference and then into peace talks with Israel. Shultz seems to feel under no pressure to meet with the Palestinians himself. Hussein is reluctant. The uprisings in the occupied territories have undercut what little authority he once had with the Palestinians, including the Palestinian majority in Hussein's own country. True to form, Hussein gave Shultz no commitments. Little wonder Shultz is frustrated that no one will make the first move.
The continuation of the conflict today stems from the inability of Arabs and Israelis to lay aside prejudices, hatred, and overblown dreams in favor of a negotiated settlement.
Schultz has said he remains open to meet any Palestinian group not connected to the PLO, but there is still no such meeting on his schedule, and that is still one of Schultz's problems. Schultz continues to try to negotiate a peace on behalf of a people he won't meet, and is trying to give the Palestinians a leader in King Hussein when the king won't take the job. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Amman, Jordan.
The Schultz trip includes a Monday stop in Syria, which doesn't like the U.S. peace plan at all. A more immediate Syrian concern these days is how to influence events in Lebanon. Bert Quint in Damascus has that story.
Syria today rejected Secretary Schultz's visit to the Middle East as what it called a mission of deceit and kept its soldiers in South Beirut dug in along what it fears could become a front line against old and new enemies. These troops were to remain just a few days, long enough to enforce a truce between rival militias. But they're in their second week now and seem in no hurry to leave. President Assad sees Lebanon as a buffer between Israel and Syria. That's why he wants Muslims here to stop fighting each other and to unite in fighting Israelis. At a Beirut-style press conference, a commander of the Syrian-backed Amal militia agreed to move his forces south.
The important problem for us is Israel, the liberation of our country.
But the Syrians see another potential enemy here, the fundamentalist extremists who controlled these winding streets before the Syrian army moved in, and who still are determined to turn Lebanon into a bridgehead for an Islamic revolution threatening Assad's secular regime. The Syrian army now has imposed a fragile ceasefire on the entire Muslim area of the tormented capital, giving people a chance to rest in safety among the rubble.
We feel at peace now. If it lasts, we can build our lives again.
But truces usually don't last long here, and there's a part of the city still untamed. This is the dividing line between Muslim South Beirut and the Christian East. It's quiet on this side for the moment, and now the Syrians are casting their eyes across the barrier. And there, 20 people were killed by a car bomb this week. Syrian officials hinted they will act to end the fighting among the rival Christian warlords by uniting the entire city under a single administration and a single security force, obviously one friendly to the Syrians. A Christian military leader replied, "Try it, and there will be a bloodbath." Bert Quint, CBS News, Beirut.
The Italian government agreed today to a NATO request to relocate 72 U.S. F-16 warplanes now based in Spain to bases in Italy. Spain has demanded the U.S. withdraw the F-16s within 3 years. Pope John Paul abandoned his Pope-mobile today for something a little sportier. Visiting the Ferrari Auto Works in northern Italy, John Paul went for a spin on the test track in a $100,000 convertible. Driving was Enzo Ferrari, the son of the company's founder.
And what makes you think we won't end up like last year?
What happened last year?
We ordered new computers when the loans department expanded, but it took us 6 months to develop their application software.
Where I used to work, we get to keep our software when we upgraded our computers. We used AT&T.
AT&T.
Why didn't you think of that?
Why do so many people choose GMAC financing to get the GM car or truck of their dreams? GMAC makes it easy. You do it all right at your GM dealers. And we make it easy on your budget with rates and terms to fit your needs. Don't just dream about a new GM car or truck. See your GM dealer about GMAC financing. GMAC! Official sponsor of America's Dreams.
Excuse me. No problem. We know about Kaopectate, too.
Kaopectate actually absorbs the germs that can cause diarrhea.
Kaopectate bags. The diarrhea specialist.
The new Remington Microscreen Ultimate with the exclusive beard lifter stretches the skin and lifts whiskers other shavers leave behind. The new Remington Microscreen Ultimate shaves as close as a blade and closer than any other electric shaver or your money back.
Democrats Michael Dukakis and Jesse Jackson were out campaigning today for the final round of the presidential primaries. Dukakis, who expects to clinch the nomination on Tuesday, was stumping in New Jersey. Jobs and the family were his theme. Dukakis said the most important family policy is full employment. Jackson led a march today through a California farm town where 6 children have died recently of cancer. Jackson called for strict controls on farm pesticides. There will be more than presidential candidates on the ballot during Tuesday's primary in California. Californians will also vote on a series of propositions, one of which calls for public financing of state political campaigns. If the measure passes, some believe the idea will spread to other states, perhaps even to congressional races.
Stop the influence buying. Cut campaign spending. Vote yes.
The measure is called Proposition 68, and it would change political life at the California State House forever. The astonishing fact is that the average race for the state legislature in California costs almost $500,000 these days. Candidates raise most of that money through contributions from special interest groups, and that is what worries a growing number of Californians.
I think it was Mae West who said, where there's a lot of money involved, trust no one.
The concern has brought together an unlikely coalition of business leaders, minority groups, and politicians in support of Proposition 68, which, if approved, would provide matching funds from the state treasury to candidates who agree to limits on campaign spending.
And it's really going to start putting the political process back into the hands of people instead of the special interest.
But nothing is simple in California politics, and an equally unusual coalition is lined up to oppose Proposition 68. Led by George Deukmejian, the state's conservative Republican governor, and Willie Brown, the liberal Democratic Assembly Speaker, the opponents argue the proposal would make fundraising more difficult, but would not improve government.
At the national level, we already have public financing of presidential campaigns. Has that had an appreciable effect on the quality of people who hold public office?
A law that gives our tax money to mainstream.
Opponents also argue that an era of tight budgets is no time to be spending tax money on state political campaigns. And they say tax money could wind up financing extremist candidates, even the Ku Klux Klan.
Those people who've lynched my relatives, my ancestors, don't deserve 1 cent of my taxpayer dollar, and I will fight it.
So you take a little bit of money, you kind of spread it around.
Supporters of Proposition 68 say it is unlikely that fringe candidates could raise enough money on their own to qualify for matching state funds. They say the real opposition comes from those who simply don't want limits on campaign spending, the special interest groups and the politicians with huge war chests.
If this is defeated, I think that it's pretty hopeless for any meaningful reform in the time ahead.
I don't think you're ever going to be able to successfully take money out of the political process. It's unfortunate, but it is there.
A poll earlier this week showed that Californians favor campaign finance reforms, but only 1/3 of the voters had heard of Proposition 68. So, with state officials now predicting the lowest voter turnout in a presidential primary since World War II, how Proposition 68 will fare is anybody's guess.
Nothing should come between you and your pet, except the Hearts 2-in-1 collar. The collar that kills fleas and ticks for 5 months. Keeps them off your pet and out of your home. Go ahead, hug, snuggle, tickle him. The Hearts 2-in-1 collar lets you get close to your pet without getting close to fleas and ticks. If you want to hug a happier pet and have peace of mind, get the Hearts 2-in-1 collar.
We know what it's like to go shopping. You have to find the right fit, style, and color.
And when you find all that, you feel great.
Well, there's one more thing that matters.
Made in the USA.
The Made in the USA label. Because when you find that, you feel even better.
It's a great feeling.
Look for the Made in the USA label in apparel and home fashions because it matters.
Made in the USA.
Work crews are trying to clean up a big oil slick near Milwaukee. Thousands of gallons of heating oil spilled into the Menominee River today when an underground pipeline ruptured. And in Florida, a dredge sank in rough seas and spilled several thousand gallons of diesel fuel into the St. Mary's River just north of Jacksonville. Officials there are assessing the damage tonight. The disintegration of a 19-year-old Aloha Airlines jet over Hawaii has raised questions about the safety of the country's aging airplane fleet. Well, industry officials now say disasters like that one are preventable. Robert Shackney reports.
Are people who fly this summer in danger because planes are growing older? No evidence for that, say aviation experts from around the world who met this week to look into the question of aging aircraft. The three-day conference concluded that a major problem with aging airplanes is not with the airplanes, but with people. The people on the ground who inspect the planes between flights. In the language of this conference, the problem is called the human factor.
Many of the inspection programs are good on paper. It's how good they are in reality that's really the important determinator.
The older an airplane gets, the more the risk of cracks and corrosion. Airlines rely principally on visual inspections and on the mechanics who do the inspections to spot the problems. But according to the experts at the conference, the system doesn't always work well. Among their worries, not enough inspectors, poor training of inspectors, boredom on what can be a repetitive job, and company pressure on mechanics to speed up the job. After the fuselage on that Aloha Airlines jet ripped open in midair last April, federal regulators ordered a new round of inspections of similar planes and are troubled by what they found.
We found some cracks. We, the industry, found some cracks this spring after they did that inspection. And it would lead you to ask the question, why weren't those cracks found last fall?
Industry officials contended at this conference that a properly maintained airplane has no age limit.
The predominant opinion was that the life limit on an airplane was really an economic issue.
Meaning what?
Meaning that at some time the maintenance, the repair of the airplane might be so significant that it would be better to buy a new aircraft.
Perhaps the most interesting debate of this conference was whether aging planes ought to be subject to mandatory retirement by government regulation, grounded after so much flying. No consensus yet on this controversial topic. Robert Shackney, CBS News, Washington.
Customs agents in Miami seized an Avianca jetliner today after finding nearly 500 pounds of cocaine hidden in a shipment of roses from Colombia. It is the 14th time in 2 years that coke has been found on an Avianca plane. 747 will be held till the Colombian airline pays an $8 million fine. Californians lined up in droves today for a chance to win what could be the biggest lottery jackpot in U.S. history. Officials say the pot could total $50 million by the time the winning numbers are drawn tonight in the Lotto 649 game. The odds of winning are 1 in 14 million.
I want my teddy bear.
I want my Serta.
Get comfortable. Get a Serta Perfect Sleeper. It's the only mattress that goes beyond firmness to give you the exclusive Serta surface. It'll spoil you for sleeping any other way.
I want my Serta.
You can get your Serta and save during the Serta All-Star Sleep Sale at participating retailers. Hurry, it's the biggest sale event of the year on Serta Perfect Sleeper. So save now.
There's more to it than meets the eye. That crunch of wheat holds a sweet surprise. Raisin in the middle, Kellogg's Raisin Squares. It's one of life's sweet surprises. That wholesome wheat turns sweet inside. Raisin in the middle, Kellogg's Raisin Squares. There's more to it than meets the eye. Kellogg's Raisin Squares.
And Apple Cinnamon Squares.
You're listening to the highest standard for telephone clarity, an AT&T phone. But what about cordless phones? The trouble is too many of them sound like this. That's why AT&T developed this new generation of cordless phones with clarity that rivals our corded phones. Now, when you can buy a cordless phone that sounds like this, or an AT&T cordless 52 or 5300 that sounds like this, The clear choice is the right choice.
You just never know what you might run into in New York's Central Park. Hundreds of kids who showed up there today came face to face with some giant reptiles. It was Dinosaur Day, and Richard Roth has our report.
It was clearly more a social event than a purely scientific expedition.
Dinosaur! Dinosaur!
But when part of the city's biggest park today became a laboratory for paleontology, there was proof again that a New Yorker has an answer to almost any question.
Dinosaur was a mammal, or, well, a reptile that lived millions of years ago and then suddenly became extinct.
Are they around today, or what happened to them?
They're extinct.
They're extinct.
Extinct is dead forever.
This was a show of street smarts prehistoric style, though prehistory is a relative term.
Was this a long time ago that they died? How long?
Yes. About 30 years, I guess.
About 40 years. Yeah.
What were dinosaurs like? Ask a New Yorker and feel like a fool.
They're big and tall and ugly.
The lesson here, if it's information you want in the city, just ask.
I don't know.
Thanks.
The kid's probably an out-of-towner. Richard Roth, CBS News, New York City.
That's the news. Susan Spencer will be here tomorrow. Later tonight on West 57th, a report on the troubles of former Miss America, Bess Meyerson. I'm Bob Schieffer, CBS News in New York. Good night.
Sometimes I don't know what to believe. What food's good for you, what's not. But I guess I can believe reports from the National Cancer Institute. They say some studies suggest a high-fiber, low-fat diet may reduce the risk of some kinds of cancer. So I made some changes, like eating Kellogg's All-Bran. Just 1 tablespoon of All-Bran has more fiber than a whole serving of most other cereals. Am I going to change what I eat for breakfast? You better believe it.
High-fiber Kellogg's All-Bran.
Always said, U.S. Navy is the best thing that ever happened to me. Then I met a former Marine fighter pilot, and he said, "You've just won $10 million from American Family Publishers." And that's another best thing. You may be next. $10 million. All for you from American Family. The only sweepstakes with my picture. Be sure to beat this date. Enter now.
Now, all right, Sissy wants to come on. Here we go.
I don't know where to go again.
Oh, yeah? All right, want to go again? 1, 2, right.
Heading to the H.O. Warren.
He's going to be in Swedish Cottage, Marionette Theater, that is just right around the theater here, right by the road. Walk down here about 50 yards and see. That's a show about the asteroid extinction theory.
Fresh.
Sweetheart. Now, from the class and also
Here's your pain.
Alan is famous for being the grandparent of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Alan is definitely the not of the fraternity.
Very pretty.
Let's have a nice warm round of applause for Alan. Thank you. Being approximately 80 feet long and over 40 feet high. If you can use your imagination, you can see that she could easily slip into and peer into a 4 fingers on each hand. Now, being two-legged and sharp claws and a meat eater, Colleen loves lizards, eggs, rootlets, gives her kicks judging from those big flakes lined on her back. Now, since Susie is spiked, we like to call her hip, since her hips are the largest part on her body, aside from the top plate. She walks on all 4s, and since her front legs are shorter than the back ones, she's not the fastest creature ever to have walked. Hailing from Oklahoma, Utah, and Wyoming.
Many of golf's greatest names have battled it out in hard-fought playoffs to capture this tournament's coveted trophy, the Kemper Open, continuing tomorrow on CBS Sports.
This is CBS.
play favorites around here anymore. Do the job.